This is kind of a serious question. How are you grounded?
How are you grounded?
You may be seated this
I thought he was rounded. Grounded. Oh man. How are you grounded? Very.
I was reading this week about a pastor whose Sunday school for the parents of young preschoolers decided to rename itself. Marie, you're going to like this. They kicked around several possibilities. One was the Seekers Group, or the Searchers, or maybe the Learners. But all these names seemed like they were kind of removed from the everyday wear and tear of their lives. But finally, one idea rose to the top. It was simple, it was truthful, it was inclusive, and it was kind of playful. And so the last time the pastor walked by the classroom, there he saw the new name on the door. It simply read, "The Tired Parents Class." And he figured, yeah, that probably says it all, huh? Lately in life, it seems that not only change is coming, there's a song like that, gospel song, but it seems like change is coming at us, right at us, directed at us with a greater velocity than we were expecting or even feel that we've been used to. Parents or not, it seems like we're all tired. I got an email this week from a Christian publishing company. I mean, it was an advertisement, let's be straight about that. But as I was reading through the advertisement, you know, they had to hook you somehow. And they were describing the pastor's life. You know, a funeral, a wedding, counseling with a family member, trying to find time for your own family. As I was reading the email, I started looking around my room to see where they had put the camera, because it seemed like they weren't describing just a general situation, but that they were looking directly at my life and writing about it. Except they forgot to mention a few things, like hosting an unexpected week-long guest who came from the Bahamas and we thought was coming for a weekend but stayed for a week. We were grateful, but still. Forgot to mention prep time for our midweek study group. Forgot to mention that everybody in that group would be so busy with life that they all had very good and important reasons to not be able to make it. It happens in the best of churches. And it's just about that time in the week when you've gone through all kinds of things already that, you know, the inevitable happens. And by inevitable, I mean that, yes, as you're driving, a little light comes on that says, "Service engine soon." Or it's just a picture. Something in your car now needs your attention along with everything else. And then it concluded, that email, from a pastor's perspective. They said, and all of that, and you have Ash Wednesday and Lent bearing down on you. You've jotted down some ideas for a midweek Lenten sermon series, but none of them really has developed into anything special. And you asked the question, wasn't just last week Christmas? But enough about me. How was your week? Often it seems like we are no longer living the lives that we have, but dealing with life as it comes to us. You know how it is. You no sooner get your new cell phone or your new computer software, or get approved all of the doctors on your insurance plan, and you get these things ready, and all of a sudden, oh, guess what? The technology on your phone, it's already out of date, right? It's time for, what is it, iPhone 7? Windows 10? I don't know. The doctors that you just found that are in-network, guess what? They're no longer in-network. They've changed. The decisions that we've made last week are as wilted as the bag of lettuce we bought at Costco last week. Actually, I found a jar of mayo in my fridge last week that had the note on it, says, best before January 13th. They meant actually January 2013. It was 2 years old already.
That's an experiment.
What about the evening news? No help there. Instantly we can feel the fear of Ebola, though that seems to be abating. Or of ISIS with new kinds of atrocities that are hard to even imagine. We can feel the rise and the fall of the stock market. We hear the spread of wars and the rumors of wars. And speaking about the rumors of wars, apparently we can't even trust Brian Williams anymore. And that seems sad. So just ask somebody, how's it going for you? And listen for the words. I feel overwhelmed. I feel exhausted all the time. It's not so much that we're living our lives, but that life is coming at us, and it seems like it's too fast to handle. Well, at this point we encounter today's text in Mark's Gospel. It's been a day in the life of Jesus scenario with just a few verses. Starting with last week's Gospel, he bounces from need to need, from place to place. The diary of his day, and he didn't even have his Google Calendar with him to check on it, but his diary for his day was jam-packed. First, there was that high-level profile opportunity at the synagogue last week, if you remember. He came in, and immediately as he arrived, there he was teaching, preaching. And then after the service was over, he encounters a man who is demon-possessed. Do you remember the man, the one who doesn't want anything in his church changed? I want everything to stay exactly the same. And Jesus has to speak to him forcefully. And now today's lesson continues on. It's still the same day. They detour from the synagogue and they go to Simon and Andrew's house to see Simon's mother-in-law. Simon, of course, being Peter. Turns out his mother-in-law is a sick woman, and she's at home in her bed, not doing well at all. And Jesus reaches out, not to exorcise a demon from her, but to bring healing. It says he cures her. With his simple touch, he takes her hand, and she gets up from the bed, and she is well. And then it goes on to say she goes immediately to serve them lunch or dinner or whatever it was. And boy, let me tell you, the New Testament commentators today, they have a time with that. They say that all she was good for was to go and serve them some more dinner? But it gave her purpose, and it gave her an opportunity to be who she was. And so then as the evening comes along, it says that they brought many people to the door of the house. And all evening long he was praying for those who were sick and who had demons. And he was curing and healing and casting out demons. And it's not until early in the morning of the next day that Jesus finally manages to get away, to get to a place where he can experience the power of prayer. Jesus saves some time in the midst of all that is going on, some time to be alone with God. And then, of course, in the middle of that time alone with God, the disciples come and interrupt him. I love the fact that in our text today, it actually translates the word interrupt him as they hunted him down. They didn't just look for him, they hunted him down. Jesus, we need your attention. Everybody in town is looking for you. And so after they hunted him down, they were ready for the cycle to start all over again. To just keep on doing the same thing. But Jesus has had that time. Jesus has had that moment to recharge his spiritual batteries, if you will. And in the midst of the hectic itinerary of his life, He takes the time to connect with God. And it allows us the chance to kind of eavesdrop in on Jesus' spirituality, to learn how he lived the faith he practiced. And so in the midst of all that's going on, he looks at them and he says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go in another direction and to another town and share there also the message that God has given me to bring to all the people. And so they go in a whole other direction. And in the midst of that, we can see that Jesus finds a sense of balance. Friends, that's what we need too. We need a sense of balance. You see, action all the time without time for contemplation, without time for meditation, is like going on a ship without a ballast. The winds come and there's nothing to hold it steady, and the ship will turn over in the water. But on the same token, by the same token, a life of contemplation only, with no action to it, is inert. It needs interaction. We need to interact with each other and with the people God brings into our lives. We need to do that for them to be fed and for us to also be fed. But in the balance, we need two things. We need to recognize two things. One, that is, if you are a caring person. Now, as Christians, we want to all say, yes, we're caring people. Caring and loving people. When you care about other people, there will be pressure. There will be tough choices to make. It happened to Jesus. It happens to us. So don't be surprised. Pastors may have a unique story. We hear everybody's situations and what they're going through. We hear all about their life and their health and their kids and their joys and their sorrows. We take all that in, and then when everybody's gone home, maybe we still have to work with that homeless person who knocks at our door or calls on the phone and says, Pastor, I need you. And then we still have meetings to attend to afterwards and all those things that we have to do. But pastors are not alone in the stresses that we have in life. Parents have the same kind of stresses. Between work life and school and children and trying to keep it all together, moving in how many different directions at the same time, making sure our kids are where they need to be. That's the reality. That's the landscape. That's what we face. So the point becomes the things that can't be changed, the terrain in our life that is what it is, if it can't be changed, what do we accept? How do we find our place even in the midst of the tumult and the change? Finding a way to accept what God has brought into our lives. That's number one. Number two, we can't stop life from coming at us, but we can attend to the life that is given to us. That means attending to the relationship we have with God. Listen again to the words that Isaiah speaks to the people of God in his day. It says, even the youth will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. My Sunday school kids couldn't even keep their arms up that long, huh? But when they fall and become exhausted, we need to find a way to have new strength at that moment. And so Isaiah says, but those who wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall walk. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. That's what Jesus was doing when he took time, when he sequestered himself, when he got to a place where nobody even knew where he was, to the point where they had to hunt him down. Huh? If he would have had a cell phone, I think he would have put it on silence or maybe turned it off and said, right now I don't need any interruptions. I need to just be by myself in the presence of God. so that I can find a perspective to live my life above the fray and on the wings of an eagle, looking beyond the foes and the woes of life. Because when everyone comes looking for you, if you don't have the strength that you need inside, how will you respond? And so Jesus said, let's go and head in this other direction, because I need to preach there too. That's why I came. Folks, we need that clarity of purpose that comes from meeting with God. And so the question is, where do you find your strength? I know somebody saying, well, wait a second, Pastor. That's all I need is one more thing to add to my schedule. One more thing. Now I have to find a way to find time with God on top of everything else I need to find time with. Martin Luther used to say, he went into the day and everything was so busy that he didn't have time to pray until he realized that his day was so busy that he had to find time to pray. That without that undergirding him, everything else fell apart. How do you find your strength? What is it that you do? What practice do you have or wish to develop so that you could find time to be strengthened in your identity this week, in your understanding of who you are and whose you are? What do you do so that identity is strong, so that when you come across the situations in life that threaten to derail all that you're doing, that you will be able to stand strong and say, I am a child of God and a follower of Jesus. And I have my grounding. Enough grounding so that I can fly with eagle's wings. So that you'll be ready when those moments come. You will have to make tough choices, but it's tough choices that come with a tough faith. So this week, as it begins, you've already made one choice, and that's to be here. To be here, hopefully to refresh those batteries, to get that charge, to get something that will take you through this week. And so I say to you, keep grounded. Keep yourself grounded in the presence of God. Know that whatever terrain awaits you this week, there's nothing that you and God together won't be able to handle if you're grounded in God. And that grounding will be enough. In the name of the one who came to dwell within us so that we might have life and have it abundantly, God's grace and peace be with you.